What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Channel 99 today. We've got with us Rebecca. She's an artist. She specializes in mixed media art, which is more on the cryptid side. Is that what you call it? Cryptid?
Macabre. Cryptic. Taxidermy, dead animals, lots of death, lots of animals, but also lots of new life.
Yes. And we talk everything from her influence to being able to purchase baby heads online, skinning puppies. What else do we talk about? Freedom of thought and creativity.
Full creative expression and being a vegan.
Yeah, being a vegan, steaming a lot of cabbage, throwing some pepper on it.
Yeah.
Have some soy steak.
Because you do not want to mix your dead puppies, and your cabbage.
You do not, especially want to mix your puppies cabbage. Especially if you're vegan.
Especially.
All right, everybody, make sure that you subscribe. Give us 5 stars. Pass the episode along. And have a wonderful rest of Ayo day. Sweet dance moves.
Shut up and sit down.
What's up, everybody? Thanks again for tuning in to Channel 99. We've got with us today Rebecca. Can I call you Becca or is it Rebecca? What do you like to be called? I haven't even asked you that.
Just whatever feels natural.
Rebecca. Yeah, your signature on everything, online and everything, is Rebecca. So I would assume it's Rebecca. The only reason I ask is because I get asked all the time if I should be called Timothy or Tim. And I think, for the most part, friends call me Tim. But on a professional level, a lot of people call me Timothy. I think my superiors more or less call me Timothy. Yeah. Weird. Now that I think about it. But I guess that kind of defines whether or not, like, are we cool or are we not cool?
What should I call you?
Yeah. What
Tim,
could I say around you? No, people ask me all the time. Well, my email's timothy.meyer for work. So a lot of people ask me right up front if they don't know me or if they have to give me a call for some reason. They ask me, like, so is it Tim or Timothy? But I get asked all the time. Yeah, you don't ever get asked that at all.
I do periodically, and I'm just like,
or Becky, or Becca.
Yeah, like go with your heart. Can I just call you Big T?
I honestly don't really care what I get called.
Yeah.
You wanna know why? Growing up, my nicknames were Little Vomit. I'm not shitting you.
What?
Yeah. I was called... Is that me or you? Whoa. That's intense.
That's me, I guess. Hold on.
You're good.
Alright. Sorry about that. Okay.
You're fine.
So you were Little Vomit.
Yeah, so I was called... Growing up, I was called Little Vomit, Tammy, Lammy Pie.
Lammy Pie.
Yeah, Lamb.
Wow.
Chom.
Like, where did these names come from?
All but the last one were my family. So
okay.
Each one of my siblings would call me like one or the other, or like during a part of my life, it was like part of the transition.
It's weird when you love something so much and you give it a nickname, how it evolves into a weird word.
It does. It's like the telephone game, right?
Yeah.
Like where you like whisper in somebody's ear, and then is that what they call it? The telephone game?
Yeah.
Or whatever? Yeah, where you whisper in somebody's ear and then they whisper it around, and by the end it's like totally different sounds.
Like a totally different language.
Thing. Yeah,
and you're just like, oh, okay.
How the fuck did you get there?
But that just means they adored you. You're adorable. And they're like, oh,
yeah.
You are Chom. Is that what you said?
Chom. Yeah, there's so many nicknames. It just depends on who you were
Yeah.
and what part of my life you were in. But for years,
You're a very loved Chom.
yeah, but the one that stuck with me the most is Tammy.
Tammy?
Yeah, they call me Tammy.
Do you want me to call you Tammy?
You can call me Tammy.
I like Tammy.
Might make me feel kind of like a little weird.
Has anyone ever called you Tamothy?
No.
Can I call you Tamothy?
You can call me Tamothy.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah,
Telephone game.
I'll take it.
All
Telephone game, Tamothy.
Hey world, Tamothy, run with it. Create something new.
Do it. That's what it's all about. So you're an artist.
I am an artist.
We've got you on the show. We're talking about anybody who's watching on YouTube, by the way, you can see some of the art. One of those pieces, the unicorn that is a teal. Is that right? Am I right? Is that like the color I would call it? Yeah, teal. That is now positioned directly behind my head, so I'll probably have to move that so people can actually see it. But anyways, I just snagged that piece. Thank you very much. Great addition to the studio.
Thank you for wanting it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having it still available. I thought it was snatched up. I was like, well, fine. I'll just throw it out there and see if she still has it available. And boom, you're on my podcast. So we've got that. You've got so many cool pieces. You've got a little interesting backstory. First of all, how did you get into skinning puppies and and being a vegan at the same time? Because that was one of the funniest jokes you probably presented to me. Yeah, the first thing you told me, that's like, hey, did you know that I skin puppies and I'm a vegan?
That's kind of how I fill people out. It's like my filter.
Yeah.
Are you cool with these two things? Because if so, we can be friends. If not, sorry, move along.
Right.
And most people are actually like totally cool with it. Once you say it like that, they're like, yeah, you're right. Skinning puppies and veganism, they make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually a huge animal lover. Have been my entire life. I've had, pets. I treat animals very humanely. But I'm also really interested. I've always been sort of a macabre child. I don't know why. Yeah. And at some point when I was in my early 20s, I was like, I'm going to, I really like skulls. I really like the sort of weird things that are like taboo. And I purchased a skull, like an animal skull, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have an animal skull. Like, that's so wrong. Like, what am I, like, what kind of monster am I? I've been a vegetarian since I was a little kid. Like, I haven't eaten meat in probably like 23 years or something, like a long time. And so I bought this skull and I was like, what kind of monster am I? But I love this. Like, it's so cool. And so I've always been an artist. I never realized I was an artist. I just thought that was normally just how people functioned. Like, I thought that was just a normal way of existence, is you make stuff and you work and that's just what you do. But it took me actually until just, a few months ago to realize that that's not the truth. Like, most people aren't artists, or a lot of people aren't, or they are and they just haven't figured it out. But I got this skull and then I got another one, and then pretty soon I had a whole bunch of skulls, and realized like, wow, this is something I'm pretty fascinated by, and these are the most interesting things that I have in my possession. And I met my ex-husband, and he had a piece of taxidermy. He had a squirrel. And I remember looking at this thing and being just like blown away. Like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's a dead squirrel, and it's poorly done, but it makes so much sense to me. And I love this. Like, I love this. And that kind of began my fetish, I guess, for taxidermy, or like that whole world. And he bought me a one-eyed, like, vintage taxidermy turtle, and it was like, this is amazing. And I just kept coming across, and like, they kept coming into my life, like these weird pieces of vintage taxidermy, or like really just like the weirdest art you could possibly imagine. And when I looked at it, I was like, this is a sculpture, and someone stopped the decomposition of this animal and made it into a sculpture. And it's like, it's poorly done, and it's a representation of what they thought an animal looked like, and they did their best job to make it look like an animal. And it fascinated me. And so I just started collecting as much of that as I could possibly collect. And then that evolved into me making taxidermy. I could go on for hours about this because it's so cool to me. But yeah.
You can keep talking.
Okay.
No, it's super interesting.
Okay, yeah.
That's why you're here.
Yeah. So I collected a bunch of this stuff, and we ended up with a house full of taxidermy, and it was weird because there were several times where I had to question like my morals, because I was like, some of the stuff I bought I knew was hunted, and I've never killed anything in my life, and so I was like, I bought this, I know someone else killed this, but it's also really old, and I know it would already be dead. And now it's this thing that I can like look at and appreciate and like value. And in essence, like its death gave it more of a value than its life ever maybe did, because no one even noticed this creature existed until it got shot.
Might have fed a family. Starving family.
Or like who knows? Like
But then it creates art.
It creates art, and it becomes something, and and that's a very human way to look at it. Like we look at it and we put our value on it, and we think that, okay, like, and I'm not here to debate that. Like people will, have their opinions on it, and I respect everyone's opinions on it. But for me, it was
on what? Sorry.
On
like hunting and stuff.
On hunting and just saying like it has a value after death and stuff like that. Like everybody has their opinions, and I totally respect and appreciate everybody's view completely. But for me, it made sense to me to try to make art out of preservation. To me, it was the purest form of art, if that makes any sort of sense. And so I went in that direction, and
would you consider it somewhat of like a rebirth for that I don't know, for that spirit or that creature that maybe...
Absolutely.
If it was slaughtered in like a certain way, or if it was, let's say if it was like eaten or whatever, however it was like killed, but if it was a horrific death per se, do you think like it gives you some type of I guess pleasure in knowing that you're able to kind of give this like this creature, this being, like a new life in a different way by being a piece of art? Or does that make sense?
Yeah. So death is generally horrific, and someone brought this to my attention. My friend Scott brought this to my attention the other day. Like, especially for wild animals, like death is a horrific event. Animals don't die like humans do in hospice, like pumped full of the best drugs known to man. Like, they die in brutal ways. They die of illnesses. They die of being ripped apart by other animals. Like, they suffer. And so, like I said, I do not hunt. I'm not saying you should go out and hunt. I don't care if you hunt, as long as you're being humane. But like, death is not a fun event, right? From what we understand. And yes, when I'm presented with an animal, I try not to think about the horrific scenario, even though a lot of times I see it. Like, a lot of times I'm like, I can identify why this animal. I deal with a lot of young animals or baby animals or stillborn animals, because I do mostly domestic animals, and so I'll be gifted, or someone will give me like their dead puppy or whatever and say, hey, can you do something with this? I'm sad. I'm like, sure, okay, that sucks. Yeah, this clearly died because it had pneumonia, or it clearly died because it had some crazy thing going on. And then I disconnect from that part. I see it, I accept it, I realize that's just life. And then when I create it into its new form, and I make it into a piece of artwork or a sculpture or whatever it becomes, I have this whole new attachment to it that the only way I can describe it is giving birth. And it's just literally like when I make something and I see it and I see what I've made, I'm like, I made that. I made you, into what you are. And so, yeah, like it becomes a new life. And I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, my taxidermy is very precious to me. And my artwork, all of my artwork, whether it's including dead animals or not, is like, I'm very attached to it. Mm-hmm. It's a representation of who I am, you know?
Yeah, totally. You're very passionate about it.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah. So what's the process? So when somebody gives you a dead puppy, do you do all the cleaning and skinning and like, I don't know the process. I don't know how that works. I don't know how taxidermy works. Explain that to somebody like myself.
So just to clarify, I don't often get puppies, like
or just animals in general.
Yeah.
When they give you something, when you get an animal that is like, do you typically get an animal that's already been cleaned up and they just want it to be sent to you because they're forwarding like their wish on? Is that what's going on? Like somebody's forwarding their wish on to you to like finish their job?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I get the full animal. And it's people just like, hey, like my pet just died, or my like my pet just died. I want you to do something with it because I see that you do stuff with my pet, and this makes more sense to me than burying it. So here's the pet. I get the animal and I skin it. So I have the full animal. I either freeze it, which I haven't had a freezer in a long time, but I'll skin it, and then you salt it and you pickle it, and then you flesh it, and then you pickle it some more, and then you neutralize it, and then you tan it. And then while all of that's going on, you create the form, which you use the carcass of the animal as a model, and then you create the form to replicate that as best as possible so that the skin fits over it. And then once the skin is preserved, you stretch it over the form, and then you sew it up, and then you do your little things however you're going to do it to make it have a personality forever.
How do you create the form though?
Is
it like a handmade, or do you like carve it out of something? You just use a knife and you just rough cut it because the skin's going to like just go around it? How does that work?
There's several different methods. The old technique is they would use clay, which was extremely heavy, or they would wrap it with twine or stuff like that. But modern day, like we have different
foams.
Yeah, polyurethane foams, like 2-part poly foams. I usually use, so I do 2 methods predominantly. Like I use the reductive carving method, which I just get the board that you use in insulating houses, and I carve it down with a rasp and measure it, and then put the skin over it, test it. Another way to do it, my friend, who is a phenomenal taxidermist, like actually a professional taxidermist. So I do like a very artistic rendition of taxidermy. I don't even know if you could call it taxidermy, but she's a professional like taxidermist who does trophies. I worked with her for a little bit in Virginia, and she taught me how to do the carcass casting method, which involves actually making molds of the carcass, like dissecting the carcass into pieces, freezing it, making molds out of each individual part
as it's frozen
so that it retains its shape, and then you pour a mixture into that.
Oh, I see. So you mold it. Is it like a negative impression?
Yeah. So you create like the mold, and then you put a cast in it, and then you put that all together. And that's the best way to do it, because you get the most accurate,
realistic.
It captures like all of the muscles in the right spots. It captures all of the ribs and the bones, and so you get like I have one in the back. I have the goat that I made with her in my trunk right now that I could bring in and show you, and you could see like it's perfect. Like it's got all of everything's in the right spot. There's no way you could make it more perfect than that. I don't think, than the actual carcass casting.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you were telling me earlier, we were talking and you were saying you can literally buy anything online. And you were showing me this dude's Instagram page and he had like human feet.
Yes.
Like skulls of babies and stuff. I totally thought this stuff was illegal. So when you started talking to me about this and then you started getting quiet when you're talking about it, I'm like, is this something we can be talking about? Do we need to turn our phones off? What's going on right now?
No, you can buy anything.
That's
like,
so crazy.
Literally and legally, you can buy anything you want if you have enough money and enough patience. Like you can literally buy anything you want. I do not personally dabble in the world of people when it comes to the dead trade.
Is it a popular type of art with like human
it is way
centerpieces?
It is way more popular than you could ever imagine. It is
really creepy.
Yeah, like it is.
People just with like dicks on their walls, like
like I
like feathers in the background.
Yeah, like I've never actually seen a dick pinned to a wall, but I do know someone who had like an embalming table from the 1800s that they used as like their where they served their hors d'oeuvres on. Like there's all sorts of types out there.
Yeah, that's wild. So what is one of the more popular requests that you get as far as if it's somebody? Do you do a lot of more contract work or do you like custom work or do you make more personalized types of pieces and then sell those individually?
I do. I get lots of requests for like commission orders and like I get lots of requests, but I like to do what I like to do. And so I try my hardest to do the stuff I want to do because that's like the purest and like the realest form of art. And I'm going to do the best job at that. But both, I get it both. I like it the best when someone is just like, here's my budget. Here's my like vague concept. And then I can run with it. And then they totally trust the process. They let me do whatever I want. And I think like that's the best scenario. But yeah, it just depends. It depends on the time of year. It depends like whatever. But the piece I just finished was a commission.
That was the monster.
The monster, yes.
Which is so cool.
Oh my gosh.
Have you posted that online yet?
I have not.
Okay. Well, everybody's going to be stoked because did you show me like the pictures nobody's seen yet?
You and like just like 3 of my closest people.
Things that people haven't seen them. Yeah. I figured you showed me the complete show like photos.
Yeah.
So I assume those are final. But yeah, it looks sick.
Yeah, no one else. I have not. The world has not seen it. So.
Yeah, it's a sweet piece. It reminds me a lot of a story that my dad told me back in the day, minus like the whole goat and like the devil's hand over his shoulder. Is that what it is, over his shoulder?
No, he's holding it like he's like about ready to eat this.
Okay.
Fucking go ahead.
It's so sick.
Space go ahead.
It's so sick. What is your inspiration? Do you just go on the fly, or do you usually draw something out ahead of time?
Usually I come up with these ideas. I have been thinking about monsters and animals and all of this crazy shit my entire life since I was a little kid, and it is a constant influx of ideas, literally constant. So when I get some direction and like the money to do it, when I'm able to fund my project, then that's where like it becomes what it actually is. But these things just come out of my head, and I didn't even realize it until I looked back at like I was making, so I have this monster now that is almost, 5 feet. The frame is almost 5 feet, but I made little tiny versions of this like 10 years ago. So these have always just been there. Like and I've drawn, like when I used to do punk rock flyers, like draw punk rock flyers, and they were the same monsters. Like these monsters have always been there. I have no idea where they come from, but they're there.
Yeah. So I've got a bunch of monsters that I used to draw.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So when you told me that you earlier conversation when you were talking to me about drawing monsters and stuff and the influence, I was like, oh shoot, I need to find this. So I have a folder of all the monsters I used to draw all the time.
I have to see this.
I used to have a blast, and they were pretty intricate. I was pretty proud of myself at the time. So I bet if I looked at them today, I'd be like, dude, you gotta step your game up. But for my age at the time, I didn't have any friends or anything. I just moved here, so all I did was just draw.
You made your friends?
All monsters. I drew my monsters. My friends. I drew my friends.
That's what I do too.
Yeah,
I make
totally.
my friends.
Yeah, they're a little weird. They're a little different friends. Not a lot of friends have 3 eyeballs.
They're awesome. They're way cooler than...
They don't judge.
They don't. They might eat your face, but they don't judge.
You know what? No, they'll eat other people's faces though, because they're your friend. They're not going to eat your face, right?
They're your face protector.
So you were on a reality TV show, and
I was.
and I think one of the first questions I ever asked you was like, "Yo, if you could be on a reality TV show, what would you be on?" And you're like, "Well, I was." And I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And you did this tiny house. What was it called? Tiny House, Big Living?
Tiny House, Big Living. I built a sheep wagon.
Which is pretty cool. What is it, like a transfer trailer for like sheep?
No, people used to always ask me, how many sheep can you put in a sheep wagon? And I would say, it depends on how lonely the sheep herder was, because it's literally the house that the sheep herder would live in while tending his sheep on the prairie.
How would he get it out there? Or they just build a little tiny cottage. It basically was like a standalone like room.
Yeah, it's essentially like a little wood stove bed, a few cupboards, just these really bare essentials. Keep warm and survive.
Shit in the corner. Like really small bathroom.
When you live in the wilderness, the wilderness is your toilet.
That works, yeah.
Seriously, like
I was a Boy Scout.
That to me is like the best part of camping. I don't know. People are weird when they have like little containers that they want to carry their feces around, and it's like, dude,
that's
just
weird.
go.
They do.
Yeah, there's like things that you do, and like
people
even
poop in like containers and carry it around,
like to dispose of it, and it's just it's like just go.
No, just dig a hole and take a shit.
Yeah, like go find the prettiest tree you can and like shit underneath it and like contribute to the nutrients in the soil and like move on.
Yeah.
But then that one guy burned the foothills because he wanted to burn his toilet paper.
Fucking.
That was a whole
toilet paper burners.
That's stupid. Toilet paper is biodegradable, but we don't have to get into that.
Yeah. First of all, who burns their toilet paper?
So basically what I'm saying is these sheep herders, like, they're probably just, like, shitting where they stand. They probably just wiggle it out of their pants. I don't know. But they get their sheep wagons drawn by horses. Nowadays, they get towed by cars. But they still have people living in these things. Some people live in them their whole life.
Sure.
They're amazing.
To be honest with you, I've actually thought that I could live in a very minimal, like like, I don't know, square footage. Probably, what was it, like 200 square feet?
No, it was much less than that.
No, probably like 80 square feet.
Yeah, it was about 80 square feet.
Yeah, like an 8x10.
Yeah.
It's like a trailer size. That's super tiny.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I have a bed and I have a stove and I have a place that I can fold up my clothes, like a cupboard and like a place to do like rice and I don't know, like a small freezer, I think it'd be all right. As long as I was like within distance of going to a store within like 30 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, like humans are adaptable. We can do anything.
Yeah.
We are really capable of doing anything that we want and making it our own story.
Yeah, you think so until you throw us out into the elements with no clothes on and we die.
Yeah, until you actually do it and you're like, hey.
You realize we don't adapt.
Yeah,
We're aliens.
We are.
We are hybrid aliens because if you think about it, who adapts when you die and you can't adapt? Like, we literally cannot be thrown out in the elements. We will die in like 48 to 72 hours. Am I correct? You die. Strip your ass naked, go outside, give me a call in 72 hours.
The elements. Yeah, like, and there's people that are like, they're trained and they can be like, oh, I fucking survive. I bet people are going to go crazy and be like, I could survive any terrain. Like,
watch Naked and Afraid. See how long those professionals survive, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of them survive even 20 days that they give them?
Oh, yeah, like.
You got 3 weeks before you fucking, like, dehydrate, starve to death, or you make $5,000.
Yeah, it's.
Good luck, dog.
and like, the beauty of it is, like, we are so lucky. We don't even have to fucking worry about that. Actually, we are so lucky that we get to go on television to worry about that. We get to go, hey, like, I want to go be naked and afraid.
I know.
And we can. And we can, like, get sick to make thousands of dollars and to be famous. Like, that's how lucky we are.
We get to go pretend to live like somebody who like literally lives like that on the daily.
Yeah.
In another like third world country.
Yeah. We're very, very blessed. Like,
yeah.
Being an artist.
First world problems, hashtag that shit.
It's not even a problem. It's a problem. The problem is the way we think about things. We need to just realize how lucky we are all the time and be grateful. Mm-hmm. Because being an artist, having the choice to struggle, that's dope. That's like, if you have an artistic ability and you are not struggling and crying and causing drama to be an artist and like pursue that shit, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like, get on that game. Like, go make your shit. Like, go be rad.
It definitely humbles you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You realize what struggle really is. I guess, right?
It's a self-inflicted struggle, though. I could go work a 9 to 5. I could go have kids. I could go do a billion different things. But instead, I'm like, hey, I'm going to choose this struggle. I'm not going to have money. I'm not going to have money now because one day, like, I'm going to have infinite, like, ability to create. Worth it. Bring it on.
Totally. Who are your influences in art? Do you have, like, a bunch of, like, sculpture artists or anything?
The people around me.
Yeah.
I have been so fortunate to have been just, like, aligned with in every shape and form, like musically, artistically, like everybody like around me is an artist, you know, really. And they all specialize in their own certain form. And I just like, I pick up on it and I look at it and I'm like, that's amazing. Like my number one influence, honestly, is my ex-husband, Kendall Vader. He showed me like all of his methods in living with him and stuff, and he opened my eyes to this whole world. And like all of the guys at Ink Vision, like they are super into art, and they all draw monsters, and they all think in this like certain creative way. And I spent like 4 years almost every single day with these people, like looking at what they did. And I have tons of friends that are just like phenomenal artists. But yeah, that's what I would say. Everyone is my inspiration.
Yeah. There's this Netflix documentary, and it's about this guy from Poland.
I just watched it. The struggle. It was really good. I loved it.
That was so good.
I cried.
That guy was so. How amazing. How amazing. Art. That guy like blew my mind. Every piece that they showed, I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Every single time they showed something, I was like, dude, this is insane. And how symbolic it was. The depth of like, I guess of the symbolism, but the way that he was able to interpret it and communicate it, It's like it was unreal, and definitely worthy of like a watch for anybody who's listening. What's it called? The Struggle.
The Struggle.
And what's the guy's name? Like all of his art was destroyed during World War II, basically, right? Because like Hitler came in and just bombed Poland and like took over Poland. They annexed that area.
Yeah.
And his
he was like pro Hitler until he got bombed, and he was like, "Fuck Hitler," and my friends died. It was a crazy movie.
It was kind of funny that he like the art that he did though. Sorry to interrupt, but the art, because like the regime hit him up for like some art and he sent it over and it was like Hitler in a tutu or some shit, and they're like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
And they said, "You're not gonna get that." Like he sent that in for a bid. Basically, it's like, was it a joke or was it like legitimate? And they were just like, "Fuck you."
You know, like. History is a crazy thing, like
because he did side on like the Reich side.
Yeah, I mean, I think like he definitely hates Nazis now, but he had to go through some
He's
heavy...
definitely dead now.
Yeah, like
but he did hate Nazis later.
he ended up hating Nazis, so he could say like I don't know, like I don't know, like it was a beautiful story, and it was it was very impacting and hit home in a lot of ways, and especially like the fact that he was an elderly man until he was discovered after he made such phenomenal pieces of artwork that he carved out of plaster, you know, and just, you know, in the scale of his art, like he made these tiny sculptures, but they looked monumental, and because he wanted them to be giant pieces, he wanted to make them like the way he viewed the world was like my pieces make sense in this world, and they need to be huge because this is what's going to help humanity understand better, just this general concept. But they never got to be giant, but they might now.
So sad.
But they might now. It's not sad because his story is still, it's just now gaining momentum. What's sad is that he doesn't know, but he did know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I just think that it's, for me, that's very, the exposure I have to that type of art is very minimal. So I really don't understand that. But when you mention how he had created his art that was meant to be on this grandiose scale, I literally, like the unicorn behind me that everybody can see, I literally thought that was huge when I saw that photo. I was like, oh, that's going to take up like half my wall. I don't know if that's going to work. And then you told me it was this size, and I was like, no way, dude. That thing looks so much bigger. But it kind of makes sense. Like it kind of conveys it's very prominent, but in a very minimal scale. Does that make sense?
So what people don't, the translation with art is, what people don't understand is the amount of time and money it takes to make even a piece that big is so astronomical that if I'm going to be an artist for a living, so if I made this same piece into a giant piece that you could put on your wall, I would have to sell that piece for $5,000 because of the cost of materials, the time. Just to make the face of that piece took me 8 hours. And that's a little tiny, like 10-inch, you know, little tiny piece. Mm-hmm. And so people don't understand that with art. And they're like, well, what's your real job? Or what do you do? And it's like, hey, dude, I'm making art. Like, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this like the best I can, it's going to take a ton of time. And then you're going to have to pay me for that. And that's where it doesn't quite translate over into the general populace. Like, people love art, they love seeing it, they love being influenced by it, but they also are like, why is it so expensive? Well, it's expensive for me to make.
Yeah, it's worth your time. Like, it's worth paying for your time. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you deserve that. It's I couldn't create that, and I don't have the time to create something like that, and I don't have the creativity to put something like that together. So, for me, if I can afford it, which is you should be pitching to people who can afford your art. You know, I can't afford some of the bigger stuff that you do, but I mean, I can afford something like that, and it's most definitely worth the dollar. Like, I can pay somebody worth their time for sure.
And just so you know,
And that's like, I'm ripping you off at the price point that like you charge for that, because I recognize you're probably getting paid very minimal per hour if you're breaking it down, right?
I am. And honestly, like if it were up to me, if I had an endless supply, if I just had like let's just say I only had sponsors and I could get anything I wanted, I would make art for free all day, because that is what I have to do. It's not what I want to do, it's what I have got to do. And so the money aspect of it is literally so that I don't have to eat my mom and dad's groceries every single week, which I do. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I could put gas in my car so I can deliver this to you. This has nothing to do with me actually like coming up in life. This is me like being able to continue to create these things that mean something to someone else. But yes, like I would give everything away for free if I had that option. Absolutely.
I wouldn't. No, that's cool though. You wouldn't have to. You put together some of the cool stuff. I'm just watching this again. Everybody who's watching on YouTube, this is just like 10 or 12 photos of some of the stuff she's done. So the squirrel on the motorcycle, you were telling me you made that for a famous dude on. What is this again?
Oh, it's
yeah.
There's a very awesome tattooer named Joe Capibianco, and he loves squirrels. And my friend Darcy Nutt bought that for him as a gift for his bar. And yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But
it's
who is this? How is he famous?
He's a tattoo artist. He's a very good tattoo artist. He's been tattooing for forever. He's like a godfather. So yeah, check him out. Like he's on television. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
What else do you do? So you do all mounts.
I do mosaics. Like
what's
that.
A mosaic? Oh, okay.
The background of that guy right there is a mosaic.
So what do you do for that? Then you just break a bunch of
your unicorn's mosaic.
Yeah, unicorn. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I for those I use china, like china that's gonna go to the dump, and I break it up and make it pretty.
You smash it, just hit it with a hammer.
Yeah, it's like that's like my favorite.
That's cool. I need to be more artistic like this.
You are. Just do. I mean, the thing is everyone can do this stuff. It's just like taking the time to do it, you know?
Yeah, I just don't really have a lot of time to like I don't know, mount some crazy goat to a head, or like create some intricate what is this? Is this like a chicken foot flipping somebody off?
It's turkey foot.
Turkey foot. Which is super cool. What's the story behind that one?
Oh man, my friend Mark, he's like the coolest dude ever. He comes with me each year with a bag full of turkey legs, and he's like, "Hey, my friend has a farm. He makes turkey, or at Thanksgiving, like he butchers these turkeys, and I get these feet for you. Like, here you go."
Yeah.
So he gives me this bag full of like 200 turkey feet, and I just sit there for like 3 days and like process these things and like set them up, and like those turkey legs are several years old, but yeah, I just go through and like I make a bunch of them flipping them off. I make some of them like doing different things, and then I just sell them throughout the year, like
it's cool,
little by little.
Do you do like fairs or anything? Do you do anything around here? Do they have like festivals or oddity stuff, or like tattoo festival or anything that you get a booth at or something?
Yeah, I've done the Treasure Valley Tattoo Convention. Usually I do the Salt Lake City Convention, tattoo convention every single year. I'm not gonna be able to make it this year. It's in February, and that convention's super badass. If you are in Salt Lake City or going there this February, like check that out. It's amazing. There's like phenomenal artists of all types, predominantly tattoo artists from all over the world. But I've been fortunate enough to do that for the last 3 years. But yeah, I do conventions. I do small art booths. I have been offered a few things. I have not been committed to anything just because I'm doing these big pieces right now, and I have like 15 projects that I want to work on, and I really want to focus on doing live art via the internet. But yeah, that's
be like a Bob Ross, but like, yeah, you see this this like identical fetus twin that's like conjoined to this twin.
It's a happy accident.
He needs a friend too, which is why they're connected at the back of the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's what I would do. I would do like a Bob Ross kind of
That's
show.
a really good idea.
Yeah. This eye needs a third eye because 3 eyes need another friend.
Exactly. Now
Right?
you're getting it.
Yeah. It's the monster, like,
That's amazing.
creativity inside of me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Your creativity is all over the place, by the way. You're doing everything from the mosaic stuff to, like, this literally looks like a garden on a skull, which is what I was telling you. We need to create, like, a really cool... If you and I work on something together, I'll have to get, like, my buddy, he's a carpenter, and I'll have him create, like, a really dope, intricate base for us. And then we could do, like, an awesome skull of some kind. I don't know, maybe we'll get, like, a Bigfoot skull or something. And
Hell yeah.
we'll fill, like, each one of the giant eye sockets with, like, succulents, different kinds. And then we'll fill, like, the mouth, so it'll be like a pissed off skull, and the mouth will be full of, like, something just growing out of, like, I'm fucking mad. I don't know, maybe we'll do, like, miniature roses or something just coming out of his mouth. I don't know. We'll get crazy, and then we'll build like a small little thing around the skull as far as, like, different plants, or we'll make it kind of cool, like a small set. Remember when you were in elementary school? And you were tasked with doing like a sugar cube castle or something like that.
I do.
Yeah, we'll do like a sugar cube castle, but we'll do it with like dead animals instead. But like little like pieces around like this like skull. We'll create like a whole scene around the skull. It'd be fun.
I'm loving that you are
I'm
manifesting this
geeking
vision.
this. I'm like geeking out right now.
You should write this stuff down.
But we can't put sugar cubes because I don't want like kids like eating sugar cubes off of my table with like succulents and skulls.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's live art. Maybe
It's live art.
we watch children eat sugar cubes next to this pissed off Bigfoot skull with miniature roses coming out of its mouth. Maybe that is the point that society, the world needs to get.
It's the missing link.
It could be. It could be. It's a representation of what you are.
Of everything.
Yeah, of everything that you are.
You know what? You bring out the best in me.
That's awesome. Good.
You're taking me to that next level. That creativity.
Good. I hope everyone feels that way.
Everybody will feel that way because this has been awesome.
We really do need to just create as much as we possibly
We do.
can.
Yeah.
Stop thinking you can't.
Well, the problem with people is they I think technology has really stripped us of like being creative. I think everybody's creative.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people I think they waste a lot of their waking hours or the time that they can be creative and apply their creativity. I think a lot of them, they waste it with absorbing things. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
they'd rather watch TV in their downtime than build something or create something. I cut my cable, it cost me basically $120 a month to turn my TV on once. It's like every time I turn my TV on, it would cost me maybe $100 because I only turn it on once a month. So, I decided I'm going to buy a guitar, start learning to play guitar. I already have been, I own other businesses and one outside of this. And for me, like cutting loose from all that stuff and learning to disconnect from like social media and being able to manage my time with like, I don't know, every couple of hours, take like 20, 30 minutes to reply to everybody. If I have like 10 minutes left, maybe start working on some work. But I really try to limit myself with how much time I spend on my phone because I can be applying it in other ways to make myself better, and that'll make everything else better, such as, I don't know, replying to the people who are responding to the work that I'm doing, making that work better, or making it better for those people who are engaged in that. So,
well, and I think the engagement part is vital. Like, I had to read lots of books, and I had to go in a positive direction in order to really grasp the concept of like going for it,
Yeah.
And so yes, I completely agree with what you're saying. And one point I would like to make is that if you really want to do something, you're going to have to work for it, but don't be afraid to make the leap. And if you want to create, if you really want to create, go fucking create. There's no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better you can be doing. Just go create. It's going to take time. You're going to have to struggle. Just like everything else, you have to work it out, but go create. The world, as much beauty and like diversity we have in this world, if people stopped being lazy or scared or self-doubting or listen to their bad thoughts and stuff, if they just went for it and started just creating how they felt, this world would be a completely different, beautiful place. Like, completely different. It would be nothing would even resemble what we live in right now. And that I believe that there would be less struggle, less pain. I think that humanity would just be happier in general. I think a lot of the world's issues would be solved, but people are just so wrapped up in their fear. They're so wrapped up in the fear of rejection and the fear of disappointment and the fear of competing and comparison. Like, stop and go create. Go make what's going to change everything and make things better.
Well, if you look at places around the world where you are limited in your creativity, such as I don't know, North Korea or Cuba, like these places.
Cuba, I disagree with you on Cuba. Those motherfuckers are creative because they have limited resources, but they make all sorts of crazy inventions.
Yeah, well, they're all still stuck in like the 50s, though, right? They don't have car and like they.
But they will take like a box fan and make a car out of it.
Oh, totally. But what I'm saying is like
that's crazy.
What I'm saying is like with the freedom of creativity, on a mass scale, being able to share that with people around you and having that freedom of expression, that allows others to see innovation, and that drives more innovation, and that creates a multitude of styles that people are able to express themselves with because they're able to connect with different styles, and then they're able to realize that it doesn't have to be two different things or three different things. It could be one thing. You could just meld those three things into the way that they feel, and that's what drives it. So what I'm saying is, like, in places where it's a little more suppressed, where you're not able to necessarily go out and hold social events to express yourself and have free thought and have an opinion, in a lot of places, I think especially with something that you're doing, you're able, and where we're at here, you're able to express yourself in a way that is not common around the world, right?
And we have that gift. We have the gift to fully express ourselves, fully, regardless of what you think, whatever limiting beliefs you have. We have the ability to fully express ourselves. And for you to not fully express yourself, you're denying yourself and the world the greatest gift that you're given. The people in North Korea who are not allowed to fully express themselves, you are doing them a disservice. So yeah, like, if you even have the slightest drive to make anything, go do it. Don't let anything stop you.
Go to ceramic night over at like Piggly Wiggly, or what is it called? Pig's Pottery or Pig Nose Pottery or something.
I don't know.
They have a pottery night. Go be artistic. Go paint. Go do something.
Or go in your garage and like go make your own pots out of some brand new formula. Like go just try it all. Like you don't have to follow anybody else's ideas or anybody else's like structure or anybody, like there's no right way to do anything. That's the idea of art, is you're literally creating a brand new thing. Like you're literally creating a brand new thing. Like drill that into your head. You're literally creating a brand new thing. So do like anything you want with anything you want. Like take every material
Completely
around
unique.
you and make something out of it. Like don't let anyone else tell you you're doing it wrong, because fuck them. That's not their art. It's your art. No one's allowed to tell you how to do your art. Your art is you.
Totally. I love it. Love your passion. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. It's been an hour. So, yeah, time flies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, the only reason why I'm going to cut it short is because we're probably going to do one of those reviews after this, if you want to.
Hell
It'll be
yeah.
fun. So, everybody listening, make sure that you subscribe. Give us 5 stars. Pass the episode along. Where can everybody find you? Mind Garden.
You can find me on Instagram, mind_garden, and YouTube, mind_garden. And yeah, that's pretty
Cool.
much it right now.
Yeah, if you have questions, feel free to message the podcast. I will be more than happy to forward any questions you might have over to Rebecca and get you in contact. I'll filter out the creepers for you.
I love creepers. I love
Cool.
them.
All right.
Bring 'em
Well,
on.
I'll just contact her directly.
Yeah, just do it all. Just bring it on.
Solid. Make sure to go to rhinorush.com. Use channel 9915. That's CHANNEL 9915. Get 15% off. I don't get hooked up. They're just a sponsor, and they hook us up with a killer product. So, all right, everybody. Make sure that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.
Shut up and sit down.